What's up, guys? Welcome to Cash Game Cornerstones for MLB on Slurve. I am your host, Steve Repsold, and it is Monday, May 23rd. Let's get right into it. We got one of the easiest choices, or at least most comfortable choices, at Kershaw. At Kershaw. Yeah, that's the position. Just rename the whole position Kershaw. At pitcher today, we've got Clayton Kershaw going up against Cincinnati. He is 14K on DK. He is really expensive. 13.2 on FanDuel, so really not a whole lot cheaper there. But, you know, there's no safer feeling than having Kershaw as your cash game pitcher. I don't know if people are going to do that or not today because he is expensive and he's hard to fit in. But that's what I'll be starting to try for at least. And then the next guy down the list is who I'd prefer to have in as my second starting pitcher. It's Johnny Cueto. Prefer is maybe a bit of a strong word. I'm not his biggest fan, but he's really been killing it, especially against the Padres. Is the third time the charm for the Padres to blow him up? I don't know, but I still think he's probably the best cash game play out there, especially the best second pitcher cash game play out there if you can fit him, especially if you're playing in something like double ups or 50-50s where he's almost more of a block play because you can expect him to be really popular given his discount from Kershaw and just the way he's been pitching, especially against the Padres in the last couple starts. People are going to look at those game logs and go, let me lock that guy in. 12.6 on DK, 11.8 on FanDuel. If you're playing him with Kershaw, that's what, 26K of your 50K salary cap, so you got to make some real sacrifices on bats if you want to do that, but that's definitely the safest way to go at pitcher. If you feel like being a little bit more contrarian, not contrarian, or just if you need more money for bats, put it that way, I like Taiwan Walker versus Oakland. He's been getting blown up in his last couple starts, so there's definitely some risk there. Oakland has been surprisingly good, although not that good that I'm terribly frightened of it. So it's a better matchup than most. It's only 8.1 on DK. So, you're saving like $4,500. That's a whole player over Cueto as your second pitcher. So that's worth considering. Also, Gio against the Mets. I mean, he has just an outstanding record versus the Mets, which is not, everything, but a lot of the other numbers line up for him too. And the Mets have been colder than they were to start the season. I mean, they were just on fire. They're still not doing badly, but they're not going quite as nuts as they were. So somewhere between those four options, I think you can find a good pitcher combination. On FanDuel, I mean, I would just work as hard as I could to get Kershaw into my cash lineups for sure. But yeah, the absolute preference is Kershaw, and on DK, Kershaw and Cueto. And if you can't get those guys, then work on getting Kershaw and one of Taiwan or Gio. So catcher is really pretty ugly today, especially on DK. There's nobody cheap that I really like. There's been some interesting chat going on at Slurve today about stacking in cash games. We'll definitely continue that discussion on the expert chat this afternoon. But I am going to be recommending several guys from the Phillies who are going up against Mike Pelfrey because Pelfrey's a good pitcher to target. I'm seeing a lot of people recommending them already today, so they're definitely going to be a popular thing. And I don't love going with a full stack there, much as I don't anywhere. But the Phillies just have been kind of bad, offensively at least. And a full stack just doesn't feel that wise against Mike Pelfrey. That being said, there are pieces that I like. 2, maybe 3 players in there, not a bad thing for sure. Starting off with Cameron Rupp. Getting Mike Pelfrey's 2.6 on DK, so nice and cheap. Make sure he gets the start over Ruiz, who's like 2.7, so also in consideration as a punt. 2.5 on FanDuel really kind of rules him out because the guy I like much better, Salvador Perez, is 2.8 on DK. It's a full 3.7 on DK. I mean, with the pitchers that we're paying for today, there's just no way to fit in a catcher like that. But if you like the name Perez, I got Carlos Perez for you, who had a huge game yesterday and helped me have a very good finish over on Aces in one of the Salary Pro tournaments. He gets Derek Holland, who's just been terrible. And he's 2.8 on DK, 2.6 on FanDuel. I definitely go for Salvador Perez on FanDuel, but Carlos Perez on DK makes a decent bargain punt option. And a FanDuel only play, making sure he gets the start again because he mixes it up with Brian Holiday. We've got Bobby Wilson against Nick Tropeano, who also has just been really bad, giving up a lot of home runs. Wilson's 3.8 on DK, which is like, are you freaking kidding me? But he's only 2.1 on FanDuel, which makes him a really attractive punt there if he does get the start. Rizzo! It's always the way I like to start off talking about first base because it's rare that Anthony Rizzo is a bad cash game option, although he has been on a bit of a cold streak, so that's something worth considering. But he gets Adam Wainwright today, who's been on a much colder streak, and I think that could be the just the solution that Rizzo has been looking forward to his cold streak. Although Wainwright, showed some signs of life in his last start there, so there's, not cause for concern, but he's been better than he was. Rizzo's 4.6 on DK, kind of expensive. 3.9 on FanDuel is just giving him away. Give me all the Anthony Rizzo. Especially on DK, though. Also consider Eric Hosmer, gets Ricky Nolasco. Nothing threatening there. He's 4.4 on DK, 4.0 on FanDuel. I'd take Rizzo over him on FanDuel for sure. If you need a discount of a couple $100, or you just like his matchup against, the matchup against Nolasco is better than the one against Wainwright. Go for that. And if you need a bargain option, especially on FanDuel, Ryan Howard, almost called him Mike Howard for some reason. I don't even know who that is. He gets Pelfrey, as we've mentioned, 3.5 on DK, which is cheap, but way more expensive than the 2.3 he is on FanDuel. I expect him to be very popular on FanDuel at that price, going up against a universally recognized as very bad pitcher. At the expensive end of first base, we've got a guy that's really too expensive to consider on DK and cash. And that's Daniel Murphy going up against Bartolo, who's been, pretty damn good, at least for Bartolo this season. That doesn't really make him threatening as a pitcher to avoid or anything. But Murphy is 4.9 on DK. Really pretty hard to justify that with the pitcher prices we got to pay. He's only 3.8 on FanDuel. It's just a massive discount there. Makes him worth considering almost in and of itself. Going back to the Tropeano, we got Odor going up against him. I like Rangers today. 4K on DK and 3.5 on FanDuel. Nice mid-range option. And then your bargain option for DK only is Steve Pearce, assuming he's in the lineup, going up against Chen. He's not a pitcher that I love to target either, but the Rays can beat up on lefties sometimes. And Pearce is 3.4 on DK, which is a price that you're not going to get on many other guys with his kind of potential. Third base is pretty ugly today, and it's usually a position I don't mind filling, but Mike Moustakas, at least according to the projected lineups, is supposed to be making his return in Kansas City today, and he gets welcomed back by Ricky Nolasco, which is a good thing for any hitter to see. He's 3.7 on DK. He's definitely the more expensive option. He's only 3.0 on FanDuel, so he's a good bit cheaper there, but still the priciest, at least of the guys that I have to recommend. The next guy is a DK-only recommendation, dropping in at the mid-priced slot there. And that's Eduardo Nunez. He's a shortstop on FanDuel. He's also shortstop eligible on DK. Don't mind him there either. 3.5 versus Kennedy, which is not the greatest matchup. I don't love it at all. But it's kind of what we got there. The next guy I recommend is also against Kennedy, and that's Trevor Plouffe. Check where he is in the lineup. If he makes 5 or above, I'm more interested even. 3.2 on DK. You got to fit in value somewhere, and he's only 2.6 on FanDuel. So just great value there. Another FanDuel value guy that I can't really consider on DK at 4.1 is David Wright against Gio. Wright's a guy that I feel like has been powering up for a few weeks here, and I do expect at least a home run, if not a series of home runs in the nearish future. but maybe not today against Gio, who he doesn't have a great record against. But he's only 2.7 on FanDuel, and a guy like Wright at that price is definitely worth considering, but don't even think about it on DK at 4.1. Well, think about it, but don't do it. Shortstop's not too terrible today, headlined by a guy I love to mention. Corey Seager gets Brandon Finnegan. Dodgers in general kind of in a decent spot there. I'll mention a couple more in the outfield. But 4.1 on DK is price not too bad. 4.0 on FanDuel, it's elevated there, but I still like him. If you need a cheaper guy on DK, then we got Laid Miss Diaz, who I was calling Almeidis for like the first half of the season, because who knows who this guy is. But he's been hitting the ball really well, even though I expect him to lose his job to Johnny Peralta when he comes back off the DL. We got him right now, going against John Lackey. Not a great matchup. He's only 3.1 on DK. That's not bad at all. 3.3 on FanDuel. Meh. I'd rather go to Nunez, who's only 3.2 on FanDuel in that situation. And on DK for the ultra bargain option, assuming he makes the lineup again today, we've got Jorge Polanco. Again, Kennedy, not the best, but he's 2.4 at a position that doesn't have a lot of other value plays that I like. Definitely a good place to save some money and get the Kershaws in your lineup and the Cuetos if that works out and he gets in the lineup. So I mentioned a couple Dodgers while talking about shortstops. And this is one of those situations where DK and FanDuel somehow seem to get their pricing mixed up, crossed up here. So we've got Enrique Hernandez and Trace Thompson, who, if you didn't know, Klay Thompson's little brother. And their pricing is just weird. On DK, we've got Kike at 3.0 and Trace at 3.3. So definitely like Kike better there. He's usually higher in the lineup. He's just an absolute lefty slayer. Not that Trace is bad at that. But then on FanDuel, Kike is only 2.1K, and whereas Trace is 3.1. I'm guessing that probably has to do with Kike not being an everyday player, not being in the lineup every day, whereas Trace has been getting in it more and more. But that's just a guess, and FanDuel, that's not a good way to price it. What are you doing? But let's go away from that game for a bit and talk about Mike Pelfrey, who is a bad pitcher and is going to be targeted pretty heavily today. And if you can afford it, one of my favorite ways to go after him is Odubel Herrera, who's been having a quiet, excellent season. He is really doing well. He is 4.0 on DK, so his price is kind of reflective of it. 3.5 on FanDuel. He's definitely one of the more expensive options on the day. Another guy that I really like today, and this is kind of a bit of a BVP play, so if you're not into that, you can disregard. Juan Lagares has like a sick record against Gio. I didn't write it down, but it was like 10 for 26 with 5 extra base hits. Really, really good. I mean, the kind of thing that you don't want to ignore at 2.9K on DK, and especially at bare minimum 2.0 on FanDuel. That's something that I am going to be all over. And then another guy that's kind of underpriced is going back to Minnesota, Miguel Sano, who has been heating up and hitting a number of home runs. I want to say 3 home runs in his last 5 games, something like that. Gets Ian Kennedy, not the greatest of matchups, not the worst. 3.8 on DK is just underpriced for him. Anything under 4 is too little unless he's, facing Kershaw or something. 3.6 on FanDuel, kind of less interested, more of a DK play. This guy has a much better price on FanDuel, but I love him on both sites. Nomar Mazara. Surprise, surprise, I love Nomar Mazara. Just about every day he plays. But his price on DK is finally starting to reflect how good he is. He's 3.7 there. He is taking on Tropeanu, which I'm sure is pushing his price up, but also makes him an excellent play because Tropeanu sucks. 2.9 on FanDuel, real nice bargain there. Love that play on FanDuel. Another guy at FanDuel is just giving away too much is Yasiel Puig. I'm probably saying his name wrong because I can never say his name right. Going against Finnegan, as I mentioned, and he has been in a mega slump, but he's been pulling out of it kind of a little bit. He's a really talented guy. He's a good hitter. I think he will find his stride, and this is not a bad place to do it against a crappy left-hander and Brandon Finnegan. 4.5 on DK, I think, reflects his potential, whereas 2.4 on FanDuel. I mean, look at that price difference. It's 2,100. I mean, that's silly. Anyway, his price on FanDuel reflects what he's been doing recently. So I think that's a good spot to potentially capitalize on. You're taking a little bit of a risk there, and I definitely go for Kike first over Pui. Over Yasiel. Let's go with that. I can actually say that. Yeah, so, Dodgers in a good spot. Rangers in a good spot. Phillies in a pretty good spot. There's a lot of teams to pick from there. And the trouble really is going to be fitting in the bats that you want with Clayton Kershaw and someone else good, hopefully Johnny Cueto. So that's it for Cash Game Cornerstones for today. We are doing another MLB expert chat today at 5 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you come on by slurv.com. It's free. You can come hang out with us in the tailgate, and then later on we'll be on the expert chat, me and Max and Adam, with Eric hosting us and guiding us like a Svengali. And it'll be a good time, and we'll make some good lineups. So come on down, slurv.com. I am Steve. Good luck, guys.